Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of The Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hey there, flower lovers. Have you ever thought about turning your gardening expertise or any passion into a digital course? Imagine being able to share what you love and make an impact while earning money from something you've already mastered. Well, my mentor, Amy Porterfield, is here to help you make that dream a reality with her Course Confident Bootcamp. It kicks off on September 11th with a welcome party, and in this bootcamp, Amy will help you figure out exactly what to teach, how to grow an audience that's ready to learn from you, and how to show up confidently online. Whether you're new to digital courses or have been thinking about it for a while, this bootcamp is packed with practical tools to help you nurture your course idea from seed to bloom. And the best part, it's only $47 to join, which is an absolute steal for what you'll get. But don't wait too long. Just like in the garden, timing is everything. Spaces are limited, and the bootcamp is starting soon. Head over to today's show notes for the link to save your spot, and let's grow something amazing together. Welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast, where we celebrate the stories of the individuals behind the blooms. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to Katy King, co-founder of Hidden Springs Flower Farm, a vibrant cut flower farm blossoming on a century-old family farm nestled in the heart of central Pennsylvania. Hidden Springs is a testament to the enduring beauty of nature and the passion of those who cultivate it. Katy, alongside her husband Jim, launched Hidden Springs in the fall of 2018. With no formal training but a profound love for gardening, they transformed a simple backyard veggie patch into 2 acres of stunning seasonal cut flowers. Their farm is a place where every day is blossoming with flowers, inspired by the nostalgic charm of a grandmother's backyard garden. But there's more to Katy's world than just flowers. As a dedicated mother, she masterfully balances her role as a farmer, entrepreneur, educator, and parent. The farm isn't just their business, it's their family's legacy and home, enriched with deep roots that date back to Jim's great-grandparents. Join us today as we delve into the flourishing life of Hidden Springs, exploring how Katy and Jim nurture both their blooms and family with love, dedication, and a touch of historical charm. Katy, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you. So you are living and growing flowers on a multi-generational farm or a family legacy farm?
Yes. So Jim's grandparents moved to the farm here in the 30s.
Wow.
And kind of started to fix the place up. From what I've heard, Jim's great-grandfather was really into gardening. So we're sure that he is responsible for planting the first patch of peonies that I have still to work with today. And then Jim's grandmother, his daughter, and her husband moved here a little bit later. And Jim's grandfather was a farmer. So he actually farmed the land all around us until he was no longer able to do so. And there's no one continuing the farming in the family now. I mean, now we're doing flowers, but we're lucky to kind of still be here in this space. Jim and I moved to the farm in 2012, just before we got married. We had our wedding reception here, and just have loved being out on a farm without really having to do a lot of the farm work that goes along with it. But we are surrounded by corn and soybean fields, and it's It's a beautiful slice of heaven.
So, did Jim's grandparents farm corn, or what was the property previously used for?
Yes, corn, soybeans.
Okay. And how many acres are on your farm?
This farm is 110 acres total. So we're
Oh my
surrounded
goodness.
by quite a lot of field.
So, are you leasing out the rest of your property for farmland?
Yep. So
Okay.
there's a farmer that's farming the fields now. So right now we've got soybeans in the front and corn in the back, and they rotate, annually. So it's fun. We get to be part of it, but not really kind of doing the hard farm work that goes along with it.
Well, I'd say you still do hard farm work.
We do.
You have
do hard
2
work.
acres of flowers?
Yes. So I sort of took over 2 acres that's right beside our house, kind of by our house and the barn that I'm in now. And that's where we grow the flowers.
So, when you first moved there in 2012, did you know you were going to plant flowers at the farm?
Not at all. No, that was never part of the plan. My degree is actually in public relations and marketing. So that's what I did for a while. Kind of bounced all over, did quite a few things. I was one of those kids that really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So when we moved here, I did start a small vegetable garden in the back of the house. My dad brought over his, hand-pushed rototiller and helped me till up the ground. So I expanded Jim's grandmother's she had just a little bed for tomatoes and mint. So I expanded that a little bit and grew vegetables for years. And we expanded that a couple times. And then in 2018, I took over that space to plant flowers that fall. It's now back to vegetables since I have a designated space for the flowers, but that's kind of how we got our start here, never intending to grow flowers out here.
So, how did you start growing flowers? What gave you the itch?
Sure. So, it was part I loved gardening, wanted to be outside and doing something, but really for me, I wanted to start my own business, and my husband was very much on board with that and wanted to do the same. Before we had kids and we had time to sit and just talk for hours on end and watch TV, we were really into Shark Tank, and we would just sit and brainstorm business ideas all the time. That was kind of one of our favorite subjects to talk about, and we came up with some really crazy ideas that would never work. We came up with some ideas that we thought could work, but didn't really make moves on them. And we had a couple that we kind of started to dip our toes into, and then it never really happened. The summer of 2018, I actually read, I think I had borrowed a magazine from my sister. I want to say it was the Magnolia magazine. And there was an article featuring Erin from Florette. And that was the first that I had heard about a flower farm. I think a lot of people would say they don't realize that this is a thing. I certainly did not. And it's kind of a light bulb went off, like, wow, you can grow flowers and make a business doing that. What a way to combine 2 things that I was kind of already doing. I was growing vegetables. I had some flowers growing, wasn't really focused on them, but that idea hit quick, and I just went all in, researched as much as I could. That was probably early August, and by September, I had ripped out my tomato plants that were still producing.
Oh my goodness.
Totally ripped them out, ripped out the vegetables, and I had read about some flowers that I could plant in the fall and have ready for spring, and I don't do anything half-hearted. I just go all in. So I ordered anemone and ranunculus corms. We built our first low tunnels back there. I'm talking like a 20-foot patch of garden that I was using. I think I had 3 or 4 like 10-foot rows within that. And I started some snapdragon seeds and poppies and bells of Ireland and just went for it. That's kind of where it all started.
Amazing. What growing zone are you?
We're 6B, so we get pretty cold. The winters, we'll have a long stretch of time where we are below freezing or about freezing. We'll get snow, lots and lots of wind where we are. We're kind of in a very open space. Obviously, we're surrounded by fields, so we get a ton of wind. And then we get very hot too. We've had a lot of 95 to 100 degree days this summer, so we see it all.
It sounds similar to me. We're 100 degrees today and it's so hot.
It's brutal.
So that's awesome that even in 6B, you were able to sow all of those seeds in the fall or in August and September when you ripped out your vegetable garden.
Yep.
That's incredible. Did they all come and bloom that next season?
They did. Yeah. We were just kind of in shock. And I can remember my very first anemone. It was the first thing that I cut. It was a purple anemone, blue, but they look purple. And it was the day that my nephew was born, and there was snow on the ground. I have a picture of it. We had lifted up the tunnel, and there was our first anemone that I cut. And yeah, they came on quickly. I didn't really have any place to sell them, but we got that figured out, and very quickly realized if we're going to go for this, we can't grow everything in that space. We're going to have to expand. I was talking about ripping up another part of the yard, and my husband's like, okay, let's just slow down here a second. We do have some space in this field. The 2 acres that I grow on are really kind of isolated from the rest of the field by trees on one side, our yard on one side, and our driveway. So it just made this perfect space. So by that spring, when I started planting summer annuals, we used about 100-foot space out of the 2 acres and started planting there. And then we've just expanded on that.
So you started small and have grown slowly over the years.
I don't know about slowly.
Okay.
We definitely, we grew fast. Yeah.
So did you have an outlet to sell those flowers that you first planted?
Not at first. I think my plan really was to sell to florists and designers. Maybe I'd make some bouquets and sort of see where I could go with it. But I was going to take my buckets of flowers and walk into florists and sell them, which I did do a little bit of. But I had the opportunity to take bouquets. I had these anemones and not much to mix them with at the time because I didn't know about planting foliage and fillers to go along with it like I do now. But there is a really popular little boutique nearby that sells home goods. And I knew the owner from working with her before, and she invited me to come and sell some bouquets, do like a pop-up once a week or once every other week. So I did that for a couple of weeks, did a little market that she had. And from there, I was able to create a bit of a following. That was when it was a little bit easier to grow on Instagram, I think, and Facebook. So I'd take business cards along. I took a sign-up sheet to sign up for my email list. And I knew that I wanted to do a subscription. I'm not sure where I had the idea to do the subscription bouquets, but I knew that's a way that I could sell the flowers that I grew. So I had people sign up and got my first customers for the subscription that summer. Now, I was still working part-time. I went back to work part-time after my daughter was born in 2017. So I was working in an office 2 days a week. And I was home the other 3. So I was kind of balancing growing the flowers, trying to sell them, take them to this market, and then delivering my subscription bouquets that summer of 2019. So that's kind of where we were that first year. So we're in 2019, and we had the idea to put up a self-serve stand. Like I said, we are in the middle of a lot of fields, so it feels really rural where we are, but we are along a big highway in our area. So lots and lots of traffic going back and forth, and our driveway comes right onto the highway. So we thought we have a really good opportunity to put a self-serve stand out there. That's a popular thing in our area with vegetables throughout the summer. We thought we could do the same with flowers. So we started building that over the winter into the early winter of 2020. My dad helped me get the shed put together. And yeah, by like end of February, mid-March, we were ready to put this thing up. We were getting it set up. And if you put the dates together, that's about the time that everything shut down because of COVID.
Yes.
Which ended up being, I hate to say it was a blessing. Obviously, it was not a blessing. But for our business, it was it just made a huge difference because we were, in Pennsylvania, things were shut down. You had to be, distant, and a farm stand was something that could keep operating because it, by nature is totally distanced. I'm not working in it. It's self-serve. So we got it set up in March. Then I had some anemones, and then the ranunculus came. This was going on my second year, so I had a bit better of an idea. Had some perennials that I was pulling from. But I'd stock the stand on a Saturday around 10 a.m. And by 9:45, there was a line of cars down our driveway waiting for me to bring the buckets of flowers out, and it would be sold out in about 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. I literally could not keep up with it. I was sourcing flowers from elsewhere, just trying to keep up because people wanted to take flowers and drop them on the doorsteps of family and friends, and because no one was visiting. So that was kind of, that got our name out there. Definitely people were posting about it, taking pictures at the stand and that sort of thing. So that was a huge success. And I think the timing of that was just, I think it would have been, it continues to be a popular thing, but I think that timing just really kicked it into high gear. Definitely informed a lot of what I planted that year. I planted a ton more than I would have otherwise to keep up. Probably within a couple of weeks of that, I had this idea of turning a little corner of our barn into a retail shop. I actually had a dream about this years before, that our barn was a flower shop, which at the time made no sense. This was 2014. Like I said, no background in flowers. There was no reason I would be opening a flower shop in the barn. But I had this dream. I told Jim about it, and he's kind of all right, go back to sleep. We don't know anything about flowers. We're not opening a flower shop. As it turns out, we did. So we took this corner of the barn. One of our friends is a really talented contractor. He wasn't able to do a whole lot of work because he wasn't going into people's homes, the spring of 2020. But our barn, again, really distant place for him to be able to work and kind of get that put together. And by June, he had finished the flower shop as it is now. It's really tiny, but again, that just sort of continued to build momentum for my business. I continued the subscriptions, and it's just continued to grow.
That's incredible. So your business model, do you still sell to florists?
No, I do not. That stopped after the first year.
And what made you decide not to continue selling to florists?
At the time, I have to say the florists locally have come around quite a bit, but in the summer of 2019, they just weren't super interested in what I was growing. Some of them were, but, I think to their credit, a lot of them are using, working off of a wire service, and they have some really specific designs that they need to follow. They need to have Gerber daisies. They need to have sunflowers. They need to have roses, but a lot of things that I don't grow, and they couldn't use the flowers that I was growing, as I'm sure a lot of flower farmers find. I did have some success with the smaller independent designers that are doing weddings and everything. So I did a little bit of that, but I found that I was selling out on my own, selling retail, and the profit margins were just a lot better. And I was having more fun doing it that way, making bouquets, teaching myself how to make arrangements and just running the retail side of things. So I just didn't really pursue the wholesale stream anymore.
Okay. And what about your CSA? Do you still do a CSA?
I do. Yes. So I guess this was our 6th season. However that works out. Yeah, but that has continued to grow. I think I had maybe 10 subscribers, 10 members the first year. The highest has been, I don't know how many, people it was over the course of the year, but as of last year, every single week I capped it at 50 bouquets. That was as many as I could make in a day. Yeah. So, I kind of designated the first half of my week to subscriptions and the second half to retail. My shop is only open Friday, Saturday. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I was making all 50 bouquets in one day by myself, cutting on Monday, bouquet making Tuesday. They went out on Wednesday. So I've backed off a little bit, just kind of starting to change a little bit how I want to do things.
So how are you doing things now?
So this year I tried a spring subscription. So anemone and ranunculus and the spring flowers, they're my favorite. They're my favorite to work with. They're my favorite to grow. I just was a little bit nervous about they're very dependent on the weather. I couldn't set dates as well as I could in the summer. With the summer season, I say it starts the first Wednesday of June and goes through the second week of September. So I just wasn't sure how to make that work, but I put it out there to customers and said, look, the dates are subject to change. If you're flexible, but you want the very first of the spring flowers, sign up. And they did. So I started small, took my own advice for once, and only offered 10 spots this year. And now I feel more comfortable next year adding more spring spots. And I think next year I'm going to try doing kind of a fall, late summer into fall, like dahlia kind of share. And I'm thinking about cutting out my summer subscription, at least for next year. I am pregnant. I will have
Congratulations.
Thank you. I will have a very small baby next summer, in addition to, at that time, will be an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I need to be cognizant of my time, and we like to travel in the summer. I want to take them to the playground and the library. So just trying to always kind of make the business work with my life, not always make my life work around the business.
Ooh, I like how you said that. That is such a great reminder. Can we talk a little bit about that, on how you make let's see if I can say it as well as you just said it. Can you repeat that again for us?
Yeah, sure. I think I said, my priority is to make the business fit around my life and not make my life fit around the business.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. But it is something that we really try to do. In the past, we love to travel, like I said. So we go on 2 trips every summer, and that is just a non-negotiable. So in the past, I have had some really great employees, and they kind of took things over for that week that I was gone. This year, I just blocked off the week and said there are no subscriptions that week. I closed the shop, which was big. I don't really close for anything. I think it's really important to have regular hours that my customers can depend on. But I said, look, this is our summer vacation. We will not be open this week, and we will not be open this week. So just kind of being flexible or kind of working our schedule around things that I know are coming. And then also, it's hard to not let the business become our life, because it is here at home. Mm-hmm. I'm in my workshop now, but it's, 100 yards from my front door. My kids are always running in and out. Like it's hard to step away from it. But I really am trying to do a better job of that, putting my phone down, not checking emails, setting like business hours for myself when I'm willing to respond to business questions on email or phone. And then just making it very clear that when customers come in, my kids might be running around too. They might be, having lunch on the tables behind me. They might be playing with flowers right behind me at the work table, but they're always around and part of it. So I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but just kind of letting our life kind of weave its way throughout the business.
I love that. I think that what you said about blocking out time and making things non-negotiable is so important, because it's so easy to get lost in the business because it is right there. And I think probably 90%, if not more, of flower farmers farm on the land that they live on. So, I mean, there's times where I'll look outside and I can go, oh my goodness, there's a snapped dahlia branch at 7:00 at night. I'm like, I'll go fix that. And then 2 hours go by and I've just been away from my family because my brain just went to 5 different other things to take care of. And it's really hard sometimes to shut that off when you're so close. So I love that. And the fact that you can take a vacation. I know my daughter and we planned a short vacation. I didn't do a summer CSA this year. I did a spring, and I'm doing a late summer, early fall dahlia CSA. But I wanted to take my daughter down to California to see my parents this summer for a week. And it was the first time we have ever done that. And she's so used to, I feel so bad. She's that child that doesn't get to take summer trips because we're in harvest. So right. I think that's so awesome that you just literally block that out and make it a non-negotiable.
And it I think rejuvenates my passion for the business too, especially in the summer. We're all burnt out by July, definitely by August, yes. And taking that time away. Yes, this summer I came back and there were flowers that were well past peak point, and I had to cut a lot back, and just, it's always a bit of a weedy mess if I don't have someone here working on it. But I came back definitely refreshed and ready to get back at it.
That's awesome. So do you have help this year on the farm?
A little bit. So this year I have two employees that help me run the shop on Fridays and Saturdays, and I have a driver. She just works a handful of hours a week to help me deliver my subscription bouquets. And then new this year, I do have someone helping me with sort of admin a little bit, responding to voicemails and emails, kind of our general account, which is such a mental load off for me, because that is the stuff that I just drag my feet and just do not enjoy. I love the business side of it, but kind of that answering the phone, I'm a bit of an introvert, like talking on the phone is not always my thing. So having someone else take care of that and fielding really important questions to me has been huge.
That's awesome. So you have 2 helpers in the retail shop.
Yeah.
Do you have any help out in the field?
Not right now. I have myself and my husband, which was not the wisest decision. For the past, I think the summer of 2020 was the first that I hired help in the field. And every summer since then until now, so for 3 summers, I did have at least 2 people helping me out in the field, weeding, harvesting, planting. I don't know. The thought of hiring someone new seasonally, training them to do the stuff. I'm sure you can relate to this. I think probably any flower farmer could relate to this. No one does it as fast as you can. No one does it kind of, efficiently as you can. It's your field, it's your flowers, it's your business.
Yeah.
And I just would get a bit frustrated with, maybe I wasn't the best boss either in saying, look, we need to get this weeded and we need to get done with it and set a time. I didn't want to like be the mean person kind of pushing someone along, pulling weeds, but I had just had enough of it. Not that I didn't have good people working for me, but it was hard. I'm usually hiring high school or college students who aren't around after year 1. So the thought of training someone new was just a bit daunting, but I definitely need that help. So next year I will be going back to getting help in the field. Hopefully I can find someone who wants to stick around, after the school year starts.
It's so hard. I had 2 amazing part-time helpers last year, and I was only able to offer part-time help because that's all that I needed. And they were both offered full-time positions with salaries and benefits. So you have to be happy when those things happen. And when I had to clear my field, they came back and helped me and are just really great people. But I didn't have them this year. And since I downsized, I made the decision not to hire any help because I was like, I think it'll take me more time to train than just for the amount of work I need help with. But now in hindsight, I look at the field and all the weeds that I have to deal with at the end of the season. I'm going, if I would have just hired someone, I probably would have had those extra hours to get away from the farm a few more times this summer.
Exactly. My husband's been saying the same thing. He said it from the beginning of the season. What are you doing? What do you mean you're not hiring someone? And yeah, I had sort of, we probably scaled back a little bit this year too, but not enough that I don't need help. So we'll get back there.
And our kiddos aren't quite old enough to really feel that void yet.
No, not at all.
Do your kids like to help you out in the field?
I wouldn't say help. They're okay with being out there. Annie my daughter is 7. She loves to run around and pick the flowers, and she's always coming up with, she's playing fairies or playing make-believe out there. Willie is about to be 4, and he has one of those like Power Wheel John Deere gators. So he likes to drive along with me. I had him hauling eucalyptus last week.
Adorable.
A little bundle in the back. But other than that, I would not say there's any help going on. There's just activity.
But they're building an appreciation for nature.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. So what are you growing this year?
Let's see. Right now I've got dahlias out there. So I grow summer annuals, obviously. So I'm growing dahlias. I've got zinnias. I did not really do sunflowers again this year. I'm always like sort of on the fence with sunflowers. I had a lot of Lysianthus this year. I was really happy with my Lysianthus choices, and just when they bloomed, they really filled a gap for me this summer. Lots of celosia. I have perennials in that I'll cut from. I'm big into spring flowers, like I said, so I always have anemone, ranunculus, peonies. Don't really do many tulips. I have daffodils. Some perennial, like native plants that are great foliage and fillers. And the dahlias will take us through usually until like mid-October when we get frost. I think I had one year that they made it to just about to Halloween when we got our frost, that the killing frost that really took them out. And then we'll have a couple of months before the anemones start.
Do you take a break in the wintertime?
Not really. My shop is open year round. I do source from a floral wholesaler throughout the year. When I made the decision to open the shop, this is a business, and I wanted to really treat it that way. So, I'll do Christmas wreaths using fresh evergreens that are around for the holidays. I've done potted bulbs like amaryllis and paper whites. And then, like I said, I'll order from either a wholesaler that we have here locally, or some of the American grown kind of, I don't know if you want to call them wholesalers too, but the programs where you can get like the floral source, where you can get flowers in throughout the winter months. The challenge is that, the big, I'm sure for most flower farmers, the big flower holidays are not really during our growing season. So Valentine's Day, Easter, and really Mother's Day is like right on the cusp of flower season. So it helps when I have spring plants in for Mother's Day. But anyway, I do stay open year round. So there isn't much of a break. This past year, we did take the month of January off. I closed the shop. That was new. And it was a really nice chance for me to focus on some other projects that I had in mind that I've really seen to fruition this year and have really started to grow.
I like that you mentioned the holidays, because that is always such a struggle. Grew some tulips. I'm not growing any tulips this next year. I'm taking a break, but my tulips, I don't force them, so they don't really bloom until April. So I usually miss Easter. So we've already got Valentine's Day that we've missed for local flowers, Easter, and then Mother's Day. Like you said, usually the tulips are done and my peonies aren't quite blooming. We need to change these national holidays to summertime.
Totally agree.
Otherwise, we need to start making dried flowers more popular.
That, or I have found that my subscriptions, I sell the bulk of my subscriptions at Christmas and again at Mother's Day.
So you start selling your next year's subscriptions at Christmas time?
A little bit before that. I typically, my program will wrap up, I think next week is my last week. And I'll usually send an email out within a week or two to current members and offer them. I've only upped the price once in that whole time. But basically, I promise, lock in at this year's rate, grab your space, because in the past I have had to cut off dates. So kind of that always gets a good handful back in. And then, my sort of public marketing goes live right before like Small Business Saturday. I usually run a promotion like buy a subscription, get a week free or something like that. And then, I sell a lot at Christmas and then a bunch more at Mother's Day.
That's brilliant. That's such a great idea. So you can not only know that you have some of your subscriptions sold, but you have some income when you can't be selling flowers.
That's the key to it, because, I'm ordering my seeds, mostly plugs at this point, and those bills need to be paid. The invoices for the plugs need to be paid when I ordered them. So, having that revenue up front helps me to fund the next season.
Totally. So you just mentioned plugs. Is that how you start most of your flowers in the field?
At this point, yes. As you know, seed starting is could be a whole job in itself. When I started out, I did start all of my seeds the first probably 2 years. But I am very bad at watering any indoor plants. So as you know, you forget to water seedlings like one day and you can lose everything. So I had some failures. And it's hard to, go anywhere. We usually go travel a little bit in the spring and to have those racks of seeds that need to be ready to go, late April is tricky. So yes, I have started ordering plugs, and now I'd say 95% of what I plant is ordered transplants plugs.
It sounds very wise for your business, especially since you said you block out this time, because that's one of my biggest struggles is like my husband has a job that he's in the water sports industry, which is big here in Hood River. And so he's in basically a harvest season just like us. So we're busy, both of us, from April until November. So November through March is when we like to travel. But I'm always like, okay, can I go somewhere? If I do, I need someone to come water these trays. And then sometimes if someone forgets a day, you come back and you have a whole grow light that's wilted over and they're like, I just forgot once. And you're like, that once just killed them.
I know. I just, it's hard to depend on someone for that. So yeah.
I think I might have to give a few more plugs a try this year.
Yeah.
I've usually just done Lisianthus plugs.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they are one that I haven't even attempted to grow. I've just heard how I know that they will not make it here with me. So they're in safer hands if someone else grows them. But yeah, I mean, it's just, next week my plugs should be arriving. So, I get 4 or 5 boxes of trays, and within a week to 10 days, they're in the ground, and that's a lot easier for me to manage.
So we're chatting in September right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you planting this September?
Let's see. Snapdragons go in the fall. Snapdragons, foxglove, bells of Ireland. I had to pull up my seed starting schedule. Rudbeckia, Sweet William. Keep looking this direction. That's where my field is. I can kind of visualize the rows in my head. I do just a handful by seed. I put larkspur in, direct sow. Larkspur, Nigella, and bachelor's buttons. I will direct sow, but everything else goes in plugs. The bulk of that is snapdragons. I plant a lot of snapdragons. I'm trying to scale back a little bit because, as I mentioned, I'm trying to change my business model a little bit, and they will bloom around the time that I kind of want to be taking a little bit of a break. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
So, do you have to cover any of those in the wintertime?
Yep. So basically everything that I just mentioned will go under Agribon, like the light floating row cover with a very lightweight hoop. So I will take those off when it snows and let the snow insulate. Otherwise, the snow would crush them. So everything will get covered. When it's warm, I'll uncover them for a little bit. But basically, they stay covered from late October through maybe March. And then along with those plugs that are arriving, I will plant the bulk of my anemone and ranunculus corms go under low tunnels. So they are a little bit different. They're made out of a greenhouse plastic and a heavier conduit, the electrical conduit. Yes. So we bend those hoops and they go out. So the hardy annuals will go in the ground by mid-September for me here in 6B. And then I shoot to have the corms, anemone and ranunculus, under those tunnels by early to mid-October. And then those tunnels basically stay closed all winter. If we do get some warm days, I'll uncover them because they can get really toasty. They're not heated at all, but just the solar heat from the sun and the ground, they can get really hot and steamy. I don't know if you grow under the low tunnels at all, but you kind of need to watch because they can get fried really quick.
I have been guilty of frying them.
Yes.
There was one day that it was like 40 degrees in the morning, and I was like, I'm not going to open it up yet. And I got busy and I forgot. And then all of a sudden I'm like, it's 70 degrees in March outside today. And I go out and I have a thermometer under them, and it was 140 degrees under them.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
I didn't lose as many as I thought I would, but it was definitely, I pull up the sides and there's like steam coming out, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So yes, I have this last year, I didn't do mini spring flowers because we were in transition, and I just knew that I didn't have the bandwidth to handle those.
Yeah.
So besides growing flowers, you also have a passion for educating others. Is that correct?
I do, yes.
So how do you teach others in the floral industry?
Yeah. So I found, I would say my passion is it with the floral business, really, the business of growing cut flowers. I don't claim to be an expert at telling you how to start seeds or, I'll give you some pointers, but I don't consider myself like the plant expert or the flower expert. What I really thrive on and what gets me going is the business side. My background, I mentioned, is in public relations and marketing. I spent quite a few years working for the local Chamber of Commerce and was just really inspired by all of the small businesses I worked with. And I credit that with kind of planting that seed in me to start my own business. So that's what I get excited about, how to start a business, sales channels for cut flowers, how to kind of find your market and set yourself apart and, set up a subscription, how to put yourself out there on social media, how to build a website, an email list. I could go on and on and on. I just get really excited about it. And I found that when I talked about that stuff on Instagram or on TikTok, that's what resonated with people. I'd get so many questions. And I mentioned I don't love responding to emails or calls, but when it's about their business, I could talk to them forever. I just love answering those questions and just gives me so many ideas for content or a blog post or an email that I could send out. So I found myself really kind of getting into that and kind of heading in that direction and just being pulled to share more. So as I mentioned, this past January, I kind of took a break from the shop, which was great because we got some snow. I would have had to close anyway. And I buckled down and created kind of a business of flower farming course online and just really put some resources together that I thought would be valuable as someone starting out, what I would have loved to have seen. I share my seed starting schedule. Again, not because I'm an expert on how to do that, but just because seeing that document in front of me that someone else has figured out, it's just very helpful. I share, email templates and, how to build a website. So yeah, that's been something new that I've been doing this year. I share a lot on Instagram, a lot on TikTok, which I'm almost like embarrassed to say at my age that I'm on TikTok, but it's been fun. I'm on Flower Talk, I guess, and I have made quite a few connections there. And yeah,
what is fun. Flower Talk?
I think it's just the hashtag Flower Talk.
Oh, on TikTok. That shows you how much I know about TikTok.
I'm not on there doing some kind of funny dance. You will never catch me dancing on any sort of social media, anything. But yeah, I do talk about flowers and growing cut flowers.
If I can ask a side question here.
Yes.
I have not been able to figure out TikTok. To me, it feels like a dancing platform, and I don't dance. How does a flower farmer build traction on TikTok?
Yeah. So I thought, and I think this applies to basically any social media. I thought about what was I consuming, because it did take, I downloaded TikTok, maybe a year before I actually started using it, and I didn't get it either. I thought, this is not me. I'm 37. This is not what I'm doing. But as I watched it, and then it starts to figure out what you want to watch and, starts to feed you more of the algorithm, starts to feed you whatever. And I liked watching like a day in the life of this person, a day in the life of this person. What's this person eating? What's this person wearing? What's this person doing at their job? So I did a day in the life of a flower farmer, and that's my series. So that's kind of my regular post. I try to do one once a week. It doesn't end up going that well. So I do it when I have time. But I just record my day. And I think that resonates with a lot of people who are doing now what I used to be doing, sitting at a desk, and they kind of want to make a change. So I just share what my day looks like. And sometimes it's out in the field, covered in mud and doing some really hard work. And on days like today, it's running my flower shop. So that's how I sort of got going there on TikTok.
I love that you took the time to observe and realize what it is that you are consuming, because I don't think I've ever done that with TikTok. I kind of would show up and post, and I probably haven't been on in over 6 months because I was like, it just doesn't make sense. I'm like, I'm not going to dance. And all it was feeding me was dancing videos and crazy stuff. So that's good advice. I'm going to have to go check yours out now.
Well, and I found too, and again, this applies very much to Instagram also. I was originally posting with the intent to sell something, like here's the bouquet that I have out today, come buy it. People don't want to see that. That's not what I want to see either. So it's the interesting stuff that, I had a very established business Instagram. So TikTok was totally new. I really did not intend it to be part of my business persona. So those first couple of videos were just, here's my life. I am a flower farmer. And I think that's what made a difference. And now I really treat my Instagram similarly. I don't post a whole lot about what's going on in the shop or what I have for sale. I'll do that in my stories. I'll do that a lot on Facebook where my local community is. But, just sharing, making a story. People want to watch and hear your story more so than they want to be sold to.
I think that's so important. I think that's one thing that I always love. And part of why I created the podcast is because everyone has such a unique story, and it's what makes you and your business what it is. So I think that's excellent advice. I love hearing stories, and I always find everyone's so fascinating because everyone's connection to flowers is different. The way they run their business is different. But I think we can learn so much from one another as well, which brings me back to your online teachings. Do you teach through a platform? How do you teach your flower school?
Sure. So I wanted it again to be a bit different, not how to grow flowers, not flower specific. I do cover flowers, but I really wanted it to be different than your average online course. I've taken some, they've been so helpful, but I wanted this to really be more personalized while also knowing that I didn't have the bandwidth to take one-on-one sort of talk to everyone individually. So I kind of melded a little bit of both. I created a course, so that's self-paced. Should back up a little bit. The first one that I did in January was 4 weeks. So I opened it up, allowed people in, and we did it live together for 4 weeks. I had basically a week's worth of content for 4 weeks in a row. We'd have a live call every week where I would answer their questions based on that week's topic. All of the downloads, and resources that I made available were in each week. They could go back and rewatch it, but we kind of worked through it together. I did that twice, one in January to February, and then one March-ish. And the feedback that I was getting was that not everyone had the time to sit down and get through each week at a time. So the self-paced aspect was really important. So what I've done is made it, my course is able to be downloaded at any time. So you can sign up and you're part of it. You get the content immediately. And you can just go onto my website and, watch the videos, access the downloads. You can refer back and, go over it as many times as you want to. But then there is also the live component. So I call it the group chat. It's a private sort of Facebook group where anyone who is in the course kind of has access. I answer their questions. We brainstorm. It's great to have other people commenting. And, providing feedback. And then I do have a live call. The idea is once a month. So anyone who's joined gets an invitation to my Zoom, and then they can submit questions ahead of time or, log on live. And then I record it for people who aren't available when the call's going on. So I've kind of tried to blend it all together and create something a little bit different. Like I said, it's really focused on the business of cut flowers and not so much on the growing.
So who is your course for?
Yeah, it's for, someone who wants to create, a new source of income for their family, create a side hustle, create an entirely new career path like I have, someone who maybe has a little bit of gardening experience. I think that would definitely be a plus, although I do provide resources or recommendations if someone's brand new to the whole thing. We can get you there. But it would be good for someone who's started to grow a little bit, but now really wants to create a business out of it.
Awesome. So your course it's self-paced. it's always available, or is it only available certain times of the year?
So yeah, I have made it available year round. So you can log on at any time. And why I did that, I kind of went back and forth, but so many of the people who been all women. So many of the women that have taken the course and did it in January, February have come back and said, once it got to be June, I went back to this session and that's been so helpful. So it really made a lot of sense to make it available. And you can just, once you have access to it, you can access it anytime and refer to what you're doing. Refer to the lesson that applies to what you're doing at that time. So then the tricky part of that was figuring out the live calls, because obviously with the first two groups, I only invited those women to the call. But I've decided to just kind of let it open, because again, the women that went through the course in January, February are now having questions about, oh, well, this is happening with my subscription program. So now what do I do? Or how do I get prepared to resell again? And can we go over that again? So I've just, again, I like to talk to people. I love to talk about this stuff. It didn't make sense to kind of cut them off. So it's just kind of open on a rolling basis. And I just consider this not really a class, but like a community that I'm building of flower people.
Awesome. I have a dahlia patch community where we talk all things dahlias.
Okay.
And
I need to get
so
in that.
great. Yes, we'd love to have you. It's so great to just have a community, especially when you're new at something like becoming a flower farmer. It's a lot different than what people think it's going to be. It's not just cutting a bunch of beautiful flowers. Most of the time, I'm covered in mud, or my hands are dirty, or I'm pulling. It's literally like you're in the weeds some days.
And that is the name of my course, In the Weeds.
Is it really?
It is. Yes.
Oh, I love that. That's so perfect. So I think it's great to have a community of people that can support you along the way. What do you think separates your course from other flower farming courses?
I think it is that bit of live component and access. The courses that I have done, I haven't really felt that. It was download and follow at your own pace. And when you're done, you're done. Not really the ability to ask questions or. So I think that interaction, I've heard a lot of people, again, the community word I come back to, but so many of the testimonials that I've received refer to the community and having that support from other growers. They might just be popping on to the Facebook group and saying, hey, I finally got around to designing a logo. What do you think of these 3? Can we talk about them? It's that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's something is eating my plants. Like, what do I do about it? So like you said, having those people to bounce ideas off of and talk to, I think that's what sets it apart from others.
Thank you for sharing that. We have talked about a lot of different things today. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with our audience today?
I don't think so. I think we've covered quite a bit of it. We talked about starting the fact that I didn't start small. And now when people ask, how do I get started? I say, maybe don't do exactly what I did. Do start small. Don't think you have to do everything all at once. And don't think you have to do everything going forward. Like you said, you've stopped growing tulips. Same here. I've cut out so many things, and therefore I'm able to get really focused on what works for me, what works for my business. And that sets it apart, I think.
Yes.
I think I'm not trying to, I never want to put any other farm down. So I'm not saying that what I'm doing is better, but there are lots of flower growers popping up in my area, which I think is awesome. So many of them also are my former customers some have taken my course, some have just kind of asked me for tips. I've shared dahlia tubers with them. I love it. I think there is nothing better than more flowers. I don't see it as competition, but I think it's important to set yourself apart. So I said, I don't grow sunflowers. Most people do. And I think that makes mine different. I grew a lot of Lysianthus this year, and I think it's important to not see that as a limitation, but as an opportunity to be different and to do something different and to make yourself and your business memorable.
I love that. That goes back to telling your story.
Exactly.
And making it about you, because people buy flowers from a person that they relate to. Like I have had the same CSA subscribers for 5 years now. And I love it. I mean, I know their families. I've watched kids grow up. I've seen grandchildren be born. And they've watched my daughter. She comes along on deliveries with me when she's not in school.
I love it.
And they've watched her grow up over 5 years. I mean, she was 5 years old when I started delivering these bouquets. And they're invested in you and your farm. And I think they invest in your farm because of who you are and what you have to offer. So I think that's beautiful advice.
Totally agree.
Katy, I've enjoyed speaking with you so much today. For those that are just discovering you today, where can they find you offline?
Sure. So I am pretty much everywhere at Hidden Springs Flowers. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. My website is also hiddenspringsflowers.com. Like I said, I have a blog that I'm trying to make more of an effort at keeping up with, but that's where I am. And I'd love to connect. Obviously, I love to chat, especially as it pertains to flower business.
And is that where your course is also located, is on your website?
Yes, on my website. Yep, Hidden Springs Flowers.
Awesome. Well, in our show notes, we will include links to all of those.
Awesome.
And if you could send me some photos of your farm, we'll also include some photos with today's show notes so people can see your beautiful farm and that barn and your retail store space. So I'm excited for people to be able to see those. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute delight getting to chat with you. And I look forward to following your journey and seeing how your story unfolds next year with the third little one on the farm.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun talking. That hour flew by.
It really did. Well, thank you, Katy. I'd love to leave the door open so you could come back again sometime.
Awesome. Sounds great. I would love to.
Thanks. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Just a quick reminder, flower friends, if you've been thinking about creating your own digital course, time's running out to join Amy Porterfield's Course Confident Bootcamp. It starts on September 11th, and trust me, you don't want to miss this chance to finally grow that course idea into something incredible. For just $47, you'll get all the tools you'll need to get clear on your course, attract your audience, and confidently show up online. But act fast, doors are closing soon. Head to today's show notes for the link and grab your spot before it's too late. Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of the Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement. And we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.